Taylor Swift has canceled 3 concerts on her record-smashing Eras tour after Austrian authorities uncovered a planned for the Vienna leg of the tour, which got me thinking, why does Taylor Swift have better security than Donald Trump? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Seems a lot of people don't. You remember 26 days ago when President Trump almost had his head blown off? And then we learned basically nothing about the shooter. And then the Secret Service and the FBI lied about it. And then the media stopped talking about it. And then big tech suppressed its results in search. That was weird, wasn't it? The most shocking political event in America since 9/11 occurs. And then about 5 minutes later, all the big institutions just sort of move on and encourage you to forget about it. And the weirdest part of it is, it seems to have worked. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. A lady has proposed to a man after she ran a race in the Olympics. And this is only like the 7th most disordered thing that has happened at the 2024 Olympics. We'll get into the significance of a lady proposing to a fella. First, though, the yes or no game is wildly popular, as you all know, in the DailyWire shop. And we have the conspiracy expansion pack to the yes or no game. That's sold out last year. Well, I am so happy to tell you. Wait, this is the conspiracy expansion pack. I'm so happy to tell you. We now have a brand new expansion pack. That is the Politics, Philosophy, and Religion yes or no expansion pack. As a tease, here are some of my favorite thought provokers from this deck. Mr. Davies, are you ready to play?
Oh, I'm born ready.
You're ready? Okay. Another civil war will happen in the U.S. So you got to say what I think about
Yeah,
this.
I don't know, man. I think you would probably say yes at some point.
That is exactly what I would say. I would not say imminently, but all of history is basically a series of civil wars. So at some point it's going to happen. Okay, all right, I'll do one for you.
We know each other so well, we can almost finish each other's sandwiches. Wow.
And there's probably an audio delay there too. That was good. That was pretty good. The positioning of the stars can influence and change human behavior.
Are you guessing for me or is this for you?
That I'm gonna guess what you think about that. It's hard because you're based and you get it, and like Marco of Lombardy says in the Divine Comedy that this happens to some degree. So obviously, but you like free will too. Well, hold on. It says the positioning of the stars can influence and change human behavior. It's not saying it determines human behavior. It's saying it influences and perhaps changes. So I'll say yes, you agree with that.
That can is doing a lot of work, and I would say yes, exactly.
It's about the can. Okay, figure out how well you know your producers and friends and family and coworkers. Play with up to 9 people at once. Put your knowledge of your friends and family to the test. DailyWire.com/shop. Get yes or no the game, and while you're there, pick up the new Politics, Philosophy, and Religion expansion pack. And don't tell any lies when you're playing that game. Otherwise, you're going to become a regular old Tim Walz. Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, now the running mate to Kamala Harris, Democrat VP nominee. Tim Walz has stretched the truth a little bit. And I'm not talking about what they say about Trump. You know, that Trump, he exaggerated his crowd sizes or whatever. Tim Walz says that he has gone to war when he has not, in fact, gone to war.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
The weapons in war that I carried in war should only be in war. They shouldn't be used by civilians. So the question, of course, is what war did this man fight in? And the answer is none. He never fought in war. He was in the National Guard for a long time, but he never fought in war. He actually dropped out of the Guard right before they were about to go to war. So this is a lie. This is stolen valor. This is fraud. Plain and simple. He said the weapons of war that I carried in war, he never carried any weapons in war. He carried weapons in the army. He might well have carried weapons in Europe, for that matter, when he was deployed to Europe, not a war zone. He never deployed to a war zone. He never fought in a war. This is stolen valor, and it's a line of attack that the Republicans are pursuing against him, and they're right to pursue it against him. And J.D. Vance is the right man to pursue it against him because J.D. Vance has military service himself. However, we have to be very careful about how we follow this line of attack because politicians are really good at using slippery language. So one of the biggest clips that's going around right now about Tim Walz's stolen valor is a clip from the C-SPAN Washington Journal. Here's what he said on C-SPAN.
And your military background?
I spent 24 years in the National Guard, some of that full-time. I was an artilleryman. I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. My battalion provided base security throughout the European theater from Turkey to England in the early stages of the war in Afghanistan. And that same battalion is now in Iraq at this time.
Okay, is this stolen valor? No, actually, not quite. Can we go back, play that clip again? I want you to listen to these words very carefully because it sounds like stolen valor, knowing that this guy never fought in Afghanistan. This guy's never fought in a war zone ever. It sounds, but it's not. Listen to what he says.
And your military background?
I spent 24 years in the National Guard, some of that full-time. I was an artilleryman. I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. My battalion provided base security throughout the European theater from Turkey to England in the early stages of the war in Afghanistan. And that same battalion is now in Iraq at this time.
Wow, man, this is all true, is the thing. It's very misleading. It's very deceptive, but it's all true. He says, I deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. Operation Enduring Freedom was the American intervention in Afghanistan. But he doesn't say, I deployed into Operation Enduring Freedom. He says, in support of. Well, what does in support of mean? It means he went to Vicenza, Italy. He went on a taxpayer-funded vacation to Italy, which obviously I was in the European theater. There's no European theater at Operation Enduring Freedom. What are you talking about? It's a war in Afghanistan. Yeah, I was over there. And then the unit that I was in is now in Afghanistan. Yeah, but you dropped out of the unit before they went. That's why. And so I deployed, theater, Operation Enduring Freedom. This is very slippery language. It's obviously very deceptive, but that's not the clip to use. Because if we use that clip, the libs are going to say, no, he didn't lie. All of this is absolutely true. And all the fact checkers and the establishment media are going to say with a straight face, this is all exactly true. But that first clip is a lie. And that's so obviously a lie that even CNN is admitting this guy is lying about his military service.
Walz did make a comment, speaking to a group, he's done it a couple of times, where he has used language that has suggested that he carried weapons in a fighting situation. As you know, with your contact with the military, I know from coming from a military family, there is a difference between being in a combat area, being involved at a time of war, and actually being in a position where people are shooting at you. There is no evidence that at any time Governor Walz was in a position of being shot at, and some of his language could easily be seen to suggest that he was. So that is absolutely false when he said that about gun rights out there.
Absolutely true. Good on CNN. I guess they kind of have to admit in this case that the line was a lie. If we only had the C-SPAN clip, they'd be defending him. This isn't stolen valor. How dare you? But he did. And that's a very serious form of fraud. And it's very offensive to people who've served in the military, people whose family have served in the military, to anyone who really values the truth. And J.D. Vance is pursuing this line of attack. Don't forget, there's already bad blood between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. Tim Walz is the one who launched the attack on J.D. Vance that he's weird. He's the one who came up with that line, and the Democrats have run with it. And it's kind of ironic coming from Tim Walz, whose major accomplishment as governor of Minnesota was allowing Minneapolis to burn down and putting tampons in the bathrooms of fourth grade boys. But nevertheless, that was the attack. So J.D. Vance comes back swinging at him.
Last night, Governor Walz suggested that because of your Ivy League education and your Silicon backing your political career, that you yourself are part of the elite. What are your first impressions of them trying to frame you this way to the American public?
Well, look, I came from a family where nobody in my family had ever gone to law school. I grew up in a poor family. The fact that Tim Walz wants to turn it into a bad thing, that I actually worked myself through college, through law school, and made something myself. To me, that's the American dream. And if Tim Walz wants to insult it, I think that's frankly pretty bizarre. When the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. He said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone?
Not one day. Stolen valor garbage is what J.D. Vance is calling it, and I totally agree. But I like the first part of this defense, too. This was a great punchback from J.D. Vance, but he's responding to an attack from Tim Walz. Tim Walz says, you're just some Yale Law graduate, Silicon Valley rich guy elite. And J.D. Vance says, yeah, I've had a lot of success in my life. I came from nothing. You all read my memoir. My mother has suffered from addiction until my whole life until 10 years ago. And I was supported by my grandma, with what she could cobble together. She supported me. And I came from nothing and I made something of myself. And now I'm a U.S. Senator. That's the American dream. That's what's so shocking here is the libs are not attacking J.D. Vance for being some silver spoon rich kid. They're attacking him for having accomplished something, even though he didn't have privileges and advantages growing up. It's so much deeper than that. JD was, there are kids who go to Yale Law School who were silver spoon and legacies and all that. This is just a strange coincidence of history, but I was on campus as an undergraduate when he was on campus as a law student. And I also didn't come from money, and I was there on basically paid nothing to go to college, paid very, very little to do it. But there were kids who came from a ton of money and a ton of privilege and everything. And there's a big difference. So the attack here on J.D. Vance is he's ambitious. He works hard. He actually served his country and deployed. He didn't drop out when the U.S. went to war. Or when he was to be sent into more dangerous zones. What is the attack here? They don't really have an attack on JD. That's why they keep coming down to this one word. He's weird. He's weird. Tampon Tim says JD Vance is weird. Okay. Now, I want to tell you something about gold. Text Knowles to 989898. Security is top of mind for many Americans during these crazy times. Security for our country, security for our leaders, and security for our families. But you are not financially secure if all your eggs are in one basket. Consider diversifying at least some of your savings today with the help of Birch Gold Group. Gold and silver are an excellent way to diversify your savings. They're a hedge against inflation, a physical asset that is in high demand globally. Through my friends at Birch Gold Group, you can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. That's right. You can diversify an old IRA or 401k for no money out of pocket into an IRA in gold and silver. This is just one thing you can do today to secure your family's savings. And if you're like me and you already have some of your assets in gold and silver, you're probably feeling pretty good right now. Right now, go check it out. Consider diversifying. Text Knowles, KNWLAS, to 989898. Receive a free, no obligation info kit to learn the role that precious metals play in your overall saving strategy. Text Knowles to 989898 with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. You can trust Birch Gold to help diversify your savings and secure your family's financial future. Text Knowles to 989898 today. What is this campaign about? It's about that theme that J.D. Vance just floated. It's about the American dream.
My mom struggled with addiction for pretty much my entire life. And she's been clean and sober for nearly 10 years now. And that's an incredible blessing for my family, an incredible blessing for my kids to be able to get to know their grandmother. But I really believe that if the poison that Kamala Harris is letting come across the border in 2024 was coming across the border 15 years ago or 12 years ago, I would have never got that second chance with my mom. And we would have never had the opportunity to see her build a wonderful relationship with her 3 grandchildren. And if this campaign of Donald Trump's and mine is about anything, it's about preserving the American dream, and the American dream is sometimes a thing of second chances. We want moms and dads to recover from addiction and get another chance with their kids. We want kids who come from a poor family to be able to stand here and run for Vice President of the United States because it's the greatest country in the world, and we are proud of it, and it provides incredible bounty and incredible opportunity to our people. We want kids who grew up in low-income families to be able to walk outside and walk down the street without being afraid of a violent crime, because violent crime has skyrocketed under the Harris administration. We want police officers to be able to do their job and maybe receive a thank you from their federal government, and not a federal government that makes their job more and more difficult.
Masterful little clip. Because what JD is doing here is he's saying, look, we want the American dream. The left is explicitly attacking the American dream, not attacking privilege, not attacking wealth inequality, not attacking any of the usual hobby horses. They're attacking the American dream itself. And we're running for the American dream. And then he seamlessly weaves in all the different issues that tie in. Just in that, what was that, a 1-minute clip? He tied in immigration, drug addiction, poverty, violent crime, law, opportunity. He weaved all of that together. He says, these are all little parts of the American dream. And Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the Democrat establishment are attacking every single one of those things. They're promoting the crime. They're promoting the drugs. They're promoting the mass migration. They're promoting poverty. They're attacking opportunity. They're attacking accomplishment. This is good stuff. Aspirational is good. The campaigns that have won in my lifetime have been aspirational campaigns for president. You think of Reagan, actually it was slightly before my lifetime, Ronald Reagan, who said, make America great again. Ronald Reagan, who is credited with making Americans feel good about themselves again. Well, you know, America's best days lie ahead of us. Well, we have a rendezvous with destiny. Bill Clinton had a more aspirational campaign in 92 than George H.W. Bush did. I feel your pain. That's right. Bridge to the 21st century. Then you had George W. Bush. What was George W. Bush's campaign? We're gonna restore dignity to the White House. After all the degeneracy of the Clinton administration, we're gonna restore dignity. We're gonna make you feel good about yourself again. Barack Obama was hope and change. Donald Trump used the Reagan line, make America great again. And Trump's campaign, though it was harangued as being negative and dark and tempestuous and whatever, it was really an aspirational campaign. We're going to make America great again. And then even Joe Biden, I'm not saying that Biden's campaign was in any way based on reality, but his campaign was aspirational. He said, we're going to restore the soul of America. This Trump, he called Nazis fine people. Of course he didn't. But based on all the lies, he says, we're going to restore the soul of America, America's character. It's aspirational, and aspirational wins. Meanwhile, what is Kamala Harris campaigning on?
So Wisconsin, ultimately, this election is about a question that we each face. We each face a question in this election.
It's about a question that we face, and we have to face that question. And the question is, what do we face? What do we face? What do we face? We face it. What are we facing? We face that question, and we face it head on, because our heads are the platform for our face. And we will face it, and we will be what we can be. Unburdened by what has been, we will be and we will do. As Frank Sinatra said, doobie doobie doo. We will be and we will face and we will do and we will question. Nothing. She ain't running on nothing. Those were scripted remarks. Even her scripted remarks are platitudinous and vague. Her off-the-cuff remarks are completely unintelligible. So inasmuch as there are planks to the Kamala platform, what are those planks? It's about appealing to specific interest groups. Rights, abortion rights, rights in quotes. BLM, open border, free money for college graduates, free money this, here's a handout. Catch a nickel, catch a dime. That's going to be their play. Notice the difference. JD, Donald Trump, we're going to make America great for everybody. This is the American dream, opportunity for everybody. The Kamala campaign is either avoiding answering that question of what their campaign is about, or it's about specific appeals to specific groups based on grievance. And still, with all of that, it's actually difficult to attack Kamala. We can make fun of the way she speaks, but it's actually difficult to attack Kamala as a candidate. We'll get to why that is in just a moment. First, though, I want to tell you about Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com, use promo code Knowles. The Olympic Summer Games are here. Good Ranchers is getting in on the action by offering new subscribers a free gold medal add-on for the next 4 years. You can enjoy free plain chicken breasts, Angus ground beef, applewood bacon, or wild-caught salmon in every order for the next 4 years or until the next Summer Games. I don't know how they do this. Use my exclusive code Knowles. You will get an additional $25 off your first box. That's up to $1,200 in savings when you subscribe. I come home 2 nights ago. Sweet little Elise has dinner just prepared, putting it on the table. And I reach out for the steak. And it was, I'm pretty sure it was ribeye. Though there were some other meats on the table too. I take one bite into this ribeye. I said, "This is Good Ranchers." She goes, "It is Good Ranchers." I said, "Their steak is phenomenal." She says, "It's actually magnificent. It's so good." And somehow it's only getting better, actually. It started out great. It has gotten even better. I don't know how they do it with these prices. Right now, use code Knowles to claim $25 off your first box, free express shipping. Your free add-on you will get for 4 years. Don't miss the summer special. GoodRanchers.com, promo code Knowles. Here's why it's tough to attack Kamala. JD Vance will show you.
The consistent complaint that I hear is that it is harder and harder for normal people to get by. And I happen to think that if you work hard and play by the rules in this country, you ought to be entitled to a good life in the country that your grandparents built. It's a very simple goal, and it's something that we can get for everybody. Now, is that possible? Thanks to Kamala Harris, grocery prices are up 30% since she took office. Gas prices are up 50% since she took office. Rent is over 40% since she took office. Every single thing that Americans need to buy in order to live a halfway decent life has become more expensive because of Kamala Harris's economic policies.
So the problem with this line of attack is not that it's false. This is a fair enough, honest line of attack. But it falls flat because we don't consider the policies to be Kamala Harris's policies because Kamala Harris isn't the president. And she's the vice president, and even then, she doesn't really seem to do anything at the White House. That's why it falls flat, because we're in this weird situation where the president is not running for re-election anymore. No one even really considers him to be the president. Kamala Harris is running on his policies. That's all the vagueness of Kamala's campaign is just a way of saying, yeah, we're just going to keep doing the same old Democrat stuff. We're going to remain an empty suit. And Joe Biden's also an empty suit, so it's all just Democrat establishment policies. It's fair to say these are her policies, but no one blames her for them. No one considers this the Harris administration. People increasingly don't even consider it the Biden administration. So how do you nail her down? This is the greatest strength of the Harris 2024 campaign. You just can't really pin responsibility on her. She's very slippery and evades responsibility. Now, speaking of women taking jobs from men, a woman has proposed to a man after she ran a race at the Olympics. This clip has gone viral. A lovely looking gal runs off the track and then pulls a ring. I assume it's a ring. I don't know. Do you propose to a man with a ring? I don't know. Maybe you propose to a man with a Rolex or a Patek Philippe or something. I don't know what you do. But she pulls out, I guess, a ring and proposes to this man. And then the man accepts the proposal from his girlfriend, and they kiss and they hug. This is pretty par for the course for the 2024 Olympics. A lot of gender bending going on at the 2024 Olympics. A lot of weird, decadent kind of stuff from the opening ceremonies through the boxing, now into the marriage proposal at the races. So why is this wrong? Because there are going to be a lot of people out there. I'm not just talking about the libs. I'm talking about the centrists and the moderates and even center-right who say, hey, Michael, what is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong, you fuddy-duddy, you old-fashioned radical extremist. What is wrong with a woman proposing marriage to a man? Look, we all know it's a little weird, and we all have an intuition that it's wrong for a woman to propose to a man. We all just kind of know intuitively that a man is supposed to propose marriage to a woman. And you might not be able to articulate the precise reasons why that is, but we all know it intuitively. And many of the people who are going to be criticizing me for raising any questions about this also agree with me, but they don't give themselves permission to admit it. Because they can't write some perfectly rational treatise about why dudes should propose to chicks and not the other way around, you're going to deny that intuition. But there are perfectly rational reasons as to why this tradition of men proposing to women has come around. One would be men tend to be the less eager party when it comes to getting married. You might say that's wrong and that's bad and that's terrible, but it's true. It goes back to when you were 5 years old. Not one 5-year-old boy in the history of the world has ever dreamt about his wedding day. Most 5-year-old girls dream about their wedding day. That's just kind of how we're built. It's how we're wired. You might complain about that. Libs complain about these things. Libs complain about nature and reality a lot, and they're discontented with it, and they try to revolutionize it and upend reality. But it just do be like that, okay? Men are the less eager party when it comes to getting married, so men are the ones who take the initiative when it comes to getting married. Say, okay, we're the ones who have to get over this hump of maybe not wanting to commit and get married, so we're going to be the ones to propose. Another one, men are taking more of a financial risk, generally, because men tend, not all the time, these days it's less common, but men often are the breadwinners, so they're taking more of a financial risk here, so they're the one proposing. Furthermore, forget about who's the breadwinner. Men are taking upon themselves by proposing the emotional risk. Because you get a man on his knees and proposes, and sometimes the woman says, nah, sorry, no thanks. There's a clip from, I think it was UFC or one of the pro fighting leagues, where a fighter proposed to his girlfriend right after the fight, and she said no, and he was just devastated. He's so broken down about it, but a man takes that risk, and it's okay. Whereas could you imagine how sad that would be? A woman comes to you, she proposes marriage, and you say, no. And then you have to watch this woman just bawling and crying and humiliated and embarrassed. No, men take that risk on. Men and women are different. And so for any of the putative conservatives who are criticizing me for, oh, Michael, who cares who proposes to whom? It's very easy to say, now, speaking of women's issues, really good article in the Free Press by Jennifer Block on how Planned Parenthood has become the largest supplier of testosterone in the United States. Specifically, now, speaking of that, you know my friend Matt Walsh, star of What is a Woman? Well, he's got a new burning question. Am I racist? Coming to theaters this September. Matt went undercover into the heart of DEI, rubbing elbows with professional race hustlers and diversity con artists. Pre-sale tickets are available on Thursday, August 15th. Get all the details. Watch the official trailer at amiracist.com. My favorite comment yesterday is from Rustman1121, who says, if you combine the last names of Kamala and Walz, like they do with celebrity couples, it would be Walrus. I love that comment. That's a really great comment. Now, speaking of abortion and Tim Walz, you thought Kamala was a radical on abortion. Just wait until you hear what Tim Walz has done. The man that Kamala chose for her running mate as governor of Minnesota not only advanced abortion, not only promoted killing babies, he repealed protections for babies born alive after surviving abortions. So Minnesota had protections on the books. If a baby survived an abortion attempt, at the very least, the death of that baby would have to be recorded. Even if the baby was left to die on the table, which is awful. Really, you should give medical care to that baby rather than just let it cry out and scream until it finally dies of neglect after it did not die of murder, of a very active killing. At the very least, Minnesota was tracking these numbers. Tim Walz repeals that. Walz, in May of 2023, stripped the state's requirement that measures be taken to preserve the baby's life and health, merely replaced it with a nebulous requirement for care. This is the kind of care that Ralph Northam, governor of Virginia, promoted when he said, well, look, if a baby survives an abortion attempt, then, it's going to be born and we're going to make that baby comfortable and we're going to have a conversation with the mothers and we're going to see if we need to snuff out that little baby's life out there on the table. We're going to have a conversation about that. That's Tim Walz. This is fourth trimester abortion. This is post-birth abortion. Post-birth abortion used to be the punchline to a dark joke. Oh, these Democrats, they're so pro-abortion, they support post-birth abortion. Oh, wow, it's a dark joke. That is literally what Tim Walz has put into law. He supports killing babies who are born alive. Tim Walz, they're trying to paint Tim Walz as Santa Claus. They're trying to paint him as this big, happy Midwestern grandpa. All the kids love him. Tim Walz seems to take a real bizarre interest in kids, which we discussed on the show yesterday. But they're trying to paint him as this big, happy guy. Tim Walz put into law provisions that say if you try to murder a baby and the baby survives and you hear the baby screaming for his mother, screaming for care, screaming for any comfort whatsoever, any help whatsoever on a table, you can just ignore those cries until the baby dies. That's the compassion that you're getting from Tim Walz and Kamala Harris and the Democrat ticket. Pretty ghastly stuff. I know that abortion can be a politically powerful issue for the Democrats because a lot of people don't think about it too much and they just think in the liberal terms of choice, individual autonomy or whatever. I don't think post-birth abortion plays in the Rust Belt. I don't think post-birth abortion plays among suburban moms. I don't know, if the Democrats really want to make abortion a front and center issue, you talk about how this Democrat ticket wants babies who survive murder attempts to be killed out in the world. I don't think that's going to work for them. Now, speaking of violence and the Democrat ticket, Kamala is promising to ban the most popular guns in America.
And together, when we win in November, we are finally going to pass universal background checks, red flag laws, and an assault weapons ban.
All right, they're just playing the hits. This is just the Stones going out at the Meadowlands and playing Satisfaction at this point, right? We're going to ban assault weapons. Democrats have been talking about this for 30 years, more than 30 years, and I feel as though it's tedious at this point to point out what a silly term that is. But it's a silly term. It doesn't really mean anything. An assault weapon is a term that was concocted by the left to try to make you think of assault rifles or military rifles that are fully automatic or that shoot 3 rounds at a time. And the guns that Kamala is talking about here are not that. They're just ordinary rifles. You pull the trigger once, 1 bullet comes out, and they look a little bit scarier, and they've got some nice cosmetic features, but that's it. And as a result, they are the most popular rifles in America. Really simple guns. We're going to ban those guns. Okay. It'll play where it needs to play. It might not play quite as well in the Rust Belt, but Tim Walz actually helps her here because Tim Walz can say, look, I'm a hunter. I was a member of the NRA for a long time. I don't hate guns, but we need reasonable, responsible gun control. Okay, they're just playing the hits. This is just regular run-of-the-mill Democrat stuff. So if you want to hit Kamala and Walz, you got to hit them where they go a little bit off. You got to hit them where they start talking about killing babies after birth. You got to hit them where they start talking about giving Medicare for all to illegal aliens. You got to hit them where Tim Walz says, if any Republicans build a wall on our southern border, I'm going to go to the ladder store and I'm going to buy a bigger ladder so they can cross into our country. You got to hit them on the crime that spiked. You got to hit them on Tim Walz clapping like a seal while rioters burn his state to the ground. You got to hit him on Kamala Harris bailing those rioters out of jail. You got to hit him on the fentanyl crisis. You got to hit him. You got to hit him where they diverge from. Even look, I'm as pro-life as it comes. Don't hit him on the regular pro-life talking points. It's not going to matter. What they're hoping to do is just run a regular generic Democrat campaign, and they think they'll squeak by on that. You got to point out these are radical people. Now, is any of that going to matter? I got a story. Someone just wrote this into me, and I'm just going to blow the whistle on it a little bit. I want to make sure that their names and everything have been censored here. So I get this letter from a Pennsylvania resident who listens to the show, DW Plus members. Michael, my husband received a piece of mail recently we thought might be newsworthy. He received a mail-in ballot application from County Executive Sarah Innamorato. Nice Italian name, not a nice Italian person, apparently. This is from Pennsylvania. Some of his personal information, including his birthday, name, and address, was already filled in. Here's a quote from the letter: from voting rights to the cost of living to the freedom to make your own reproductive health care decisions. It's all on the line in Pennsylvania this year. All Pennsylvania voters can securely vote from home by using this enclosed application to request a mail-in ballot. If this is not a recipe for fraud, I don't know what it is. And here are pictures of the letter. So this has been crossed out, but you see the Pennsylvania application for mail-in ballot. Information already filled in. If the application is already filled in with all of this information, what's to stop someone from receiving that application and just, maybe filling in the rest, maybe you put a fraudulent signature or something and getting that ballot? We know the Democrats are very good at ballot harvesting. We know that they're very good at going into places and senior citizen homes, for instance, and just walking out there with a lot of ballots that very often are for the candidates that they want. But this is a really subtle way of rigging an election. You mail out all these applications. Maybe those applications are unsolicited, and you already fill in the information that it would be hard for a stranger to come up with. You just say, just mail this back in if you want that application. It's just a way to get more ballots out there with even less security. Forget about showing an ID to prove that you are who you say that you are. No, hey, we're going to fill in the information for you. You want that ballot, though? These are the subtle kinds of tricks that Democrat machines use. And so I know a lot of people were focused on the ins and outs of the messaging and the campaign. We got to get really dialed in on the nuts and bolts. As FDR told LBJ when LBJ was disappointed at losing a Senate race, it's not just how you campaign. It's not even just what happens in the early hours of Election Day. You got to make sure you got to sit on the ballots, okay? Who counts the ballots? That's what the tricks that go around the ballots and the election boxes themselves, that can have a huge effect on the race. Today is Theology Thursday. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey. If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of shit.
White.
Folks.
White.
Trash. White supremacy.
White woman.
White boy.
Is there a black person around here? There's a black person right here. Does he not exist? Hi, Robin.
Hi. What's your name?
I'm Matt.
I just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
In theaters September 13th, rated PG-13.